I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. It is indeed a terrific, truly thankful Thursday as we invite you to this edition of Talk Today. We started off with some open line for now until 1 p.m. So you can call and we can join in the chorus. You can call in and you can sort of wave the flag. It's not that long before you can start be jumping anyway. So we can do all the good things. 1 to 1:30, the Optimist Club. Give us a shout out as we have a chance to chat with them. Then His Excellency the Governor will sort of round us out in the last hour. It's expected to join us at 1:30. So looking forward to your contribution, your participation, not just listening, but asking questions and getting involved. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. First off the bat, a special thanks to Mr. Patrick Schmid for filling in yesterday for me. Give me a chance though. You know, I would joke and jest and say go to the salon, the spa, but I didn't know what those things are anymore. But sometimes the BOB is to be present. Sometimes when you're present, you're actually absent. You know, what I say, the lights are on, but nobody's home. Well, we're home today. Lights are shining bright. Birds are chirping. Hey, people are nourishing themselves in all sorts of ways, spiritually as well as, financially. So let's hear from you. 949-8037, 949-8037, or toll free with the kind compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. And if you like the WhatsApp, and increasingly, it's a good way to get us sort of getting information from you. Well, you can WhatsApp 925-3261. If it's more convenient, record your voice note and send it across. But I come from that sort of environment where I like to hear your voice. If possible, look into the whites of your eyes. Hear what you have to say. See what you're saying and be a part of it altogether. 949. And certainly appreciate all of the good things that we have to share. Because together, if we're working hand in hand, moving forward with a clear objective sometimes, but even if it isn't, certainly with a concerted effort to do it together for better, then it will be. So, what sayeth you? 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. I must share though that, not just our friends and families on the BRAC in Little Cayman in particular, but those of us who visit, maybe we just go over for the day. Maybe we spend, the weekend or a couple of days, and not to reconnect with our friends and family, not just to recharge, not just to be reminded of what is truly a beautiful, blessed, country. And while we're there, we see a number of things. And unfortunately, I think maybe we don't see sometimes, if they will allow me to say, the plight that they may face. Not just employment and economic opportunities, but environmental challenges. Not just that, may have a sort of be occurring from within. But sometimes we perhaps hear about it because of an outcry from someone. But as an example, a friend was across recently, having a chance to enjoy to be reminded of what a wonderful place the Brack Little Cayman is, what a wonderful country the Cayman Islands and its people. But to have been over there and to have seen the amount of trash, the bottles, the plastic, the things that are washing up on the shores that are in sort of the ebb and flow of the tides and the like, and wondering, is this coming from passing ships, whether they're commercial or otherwise? Is it washing offshore from, neighboring countries, whether deliberately being dumped into the waters or not? But tides and currents, the weather patterns is moving them, in this direction, and then they end up on the shores of the Brack. Not just an expense for our country, an inconvenience for our people, but could it also be a health risk? You walk in and you cut your foot on a bottle, you step on a syringe or something else. But how then is that perceived by the residents, by visitors and the like? Oh, look, all this garbage here, and how many would actually know, well, this seemingly is a plight that they have to endure, maybe for those of us who live and work on Grand Cayman are, well, either oblivious to it, we're unaware, or we're turning a blind eye, out of sight, out of mind, without fully understanding how challenging it is. If it's not, improper to ask of our friends and families on the Brack in particular, but certainly if you were here on Grand Cayman and you've experienced it, to maybe share your thoughts, and not to solely put the focus on the Brack, but for us to be mindful that it shouldn't be that out of sight, out of mind. It should be that we're cognizant, we're willing to help, and if it's an issue there, could it be an issue in other undeveloped parts of Grand Cayman as well? But even if it wasn't, why ignore the blight in one part just because it isn't affecting us directly? And maybe we quickly go back to what the scripture talk about, how we are so willing to magnify the speck and elsewhere, but ignore that big, horrible, monstrosity that's right in our own. But in this instance, as we hear the amount of trash and perhaps unaware of how that may be negatively affecting the psyche, impacting the financial and social costs in a very negative way, how it may not just look unsightly, but potentially could be a health risk. So if you're on the Brack and you've seen this, perhaps it is as we've seen in the past, where some have been able, not just here in this jurisdiction, but other places, identify the trash from actually coming, for instance, as we've seen in the media over the years, from a particular, cruise ship, because of the labels and markings on it. It's a high probability that that's where this thing came from. Whether there have been instances of, illegal dumping and allegations of such, but nonetheless, the fact is, how do we address it? 1-800-534-8255, 949-8037, and likewise WhatsApp 925-3261, and share your thoughts. It is Thursday now. The other thing, and I don't want to, not just belabor, because I don't think this is one instance where you can, but certainly make it in a more difficult than it already probably is for some of us. But if you're still feeling the ill effects of the earthquake, I have to stop, because I think I refer to it as a hurricane. I don't know why. That I'm told two things. One, that is not something that is uncommon. It could be a week or two, sometimes a little bit long after you feel not quite yourself. Maybe if a week or so passes and you're not sure, please don't ignore speaking to your physician, getting some proper check. It's probably nothing, but why ignore something that wasn't there before? Whether it's that little cut on your finger and it looks like it's not healing, but in this instance, don't ignore it. And then secondly, because as His Excellency will join us at 1:30, chance to have a chat about that as well in relation to the disaster response. But keep it in mind for what it's worth, so that you are at least looking after yourself as best as you can. And then, of course, as you think of that, realize that there are things that we can and should be doing. Go back to the issue of, environmental protection and maybe our actions on our environment. If we were, as a society, very, some would say ill-advisedly, taking our garbage and dumping it in remote, undeveloped lands, if there was a disaster, a hurricane, an earthquake, a significant wildfire, or something else happens, could that then create a problem for us because of the debris, the garbage that we've dumped in the dikes, in the undeveloped remote areas? Now, if it is, how do we address it? And how do we move forward? Not just out of a healthy respect for the environment, a serious concern for our personal health and safety, but just to ensure that we're respectful of each other and our environment. Well, it's open line. And who's going to be the brave soul to call and say, you know what, this is what we need to talk about. It's so pressing, but nobody wants to say anything. It's going to stir up the hornet's nest. It's going to be controversial. And it might not even be, but it might be. It may be the thing that we talked about that we're no longer talking about. It may be something that we're only talking about when we talk about after we've had too much, and then it's only among certain people. But chances are, in a small community, everybody knows something about something, but not to the extent that they should. So information that isn't shared can empower. If you're not empowered and courageous, you can't act. And if you don't act, nothing meaningful can happen. So the platform is yours. We believe we paid the free phone bill, but we never know. So 1-800-534-8255. Certainly invite you to call, share your thoughts with us, and rejoin us after this first break. So 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Go Cocoa Nuts with Cocoa Fest at Pedro Castle on February 8th from 12 to 6 p.m. Indulge in all kinds of coconut things. Coconut-inspired food, treats, fresh coconut water, crafts, games, music, and more. Admission is only $5 and free for kids under 6. Proceeds from each entry fee benefit Meals on Wheels Cayman. So if you like coconut, come to Cocoa Fest at Pedro Castle February 8th. For event details, check us out on Facebook. This ad is sponsored by Fidelity Bank. We're good for you.
The 2020 Cayman Arts Festival is here, featuring internationally acclaimed top American brass ensemble, the Rodney Marsalis Philadelphia Big Brass, from the streets of New Orleans to China's National Center for the Performing Arts, and now in Cayman. Saturday, February 15th, 7 p.m. at the Marriott Hotel Ballroom. Tickets are $40 for adults and $15 for students. Tickets are available at www.caymanartsfestival.com. For more information, call 922-5550 or email inquiries@caymanartsfestival.com. Event sponsored by Butterfield Bank.
Preventing dengue is as simple as preventing mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent, wear protective clothing, and stay indoors during early dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. Control the places around you where mosquitoes breed. Remove stagnant water in outdoor and household settings. As a weekly habit, persons should change the water in vases, clear the water in saucers under potted plants, and ensure air conditioner drip trays are free of stagnant water. Outdoor objects capable of holding water should be kept empty and preferably disposed of or put into dry storage if not used. These include open bottles and tins, watering cans, buckets, empty paint tins, and old vehicle tires. Do your part to control the spread of dengue. The dengue virus is an infectious disease transmitted through mosquito bites. Symptoms may come on as early as 4 days or as late as 3 weeks following an infection. There is no vaccine or specific medication to treat dengue. Symptoms of dengue include high fever, headache, pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and rash. If persons have any of these symptoms, they should go to the nearest health center or hospital. It is advised to drink lots of liquids and avoid medication that contains aspirin.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Thanks again to Mr. Patrick Schmid for sitting in. Hope he doesn't mind, but I think he, like many other Caymanians, not only demonstrate their intellect and their aptitude and ability, and their willingness to pitch in, and it shows that despite what some of us, sadly, some of us that call this place home and may have done so for generations, sometimes exhibit less than a respectful tone and approach to each other. But it still shows nonetheless that despite a very, very small population, a very small landmass, there is incredible talent we can identify and develop. We can move forward without necessarily having to, manufacture it elsewhere. And it's great when we have people coming from any and everywhere, and they sort of integrate and they acclimate and they make, as they've been, for generations now, an invaluable contribution so that we preserve the social harmony and stability. We look after the economic and the political security, and then we find a way, not just for that harmony that exists, but the prosperity that could come, and amongst the differences, sometimes in language and food, that we can share and celebrate and enjoy and experience. Now, it doesn't have to be that this thing is an idealistic approach or that it is, fantasy land. But again, you're welcome to challenge me or agree, or if you want to disagree. But if we see wrong and close our eyes to it, pretend it doesn't exist, or just as bad, I would say probably worse, fail to call it out and perhaps put a stamp that in the society, this is not the kind of thing that we want, that we would accept. I'll give it as an example. I'm so grateful to my friends who travel, not just because I can sort of live vicariously through them. They spend the money to go places, and then I can see their pictures and hear their stories and not have to incur the expense, financial and otherwise. Not just because I'm frugal, but just because, well, you know how that go, right? And they go to these big cities. Sometimes they go to, we won't say small towns, and supposedly, parts of big countries that supposedly, because of all the progress and the development, that what we're told here, it's unsafe. And then they find out it's the safest they've ever felt. Because of all the progress and development, it can be kind of dirty and nasty and unclean, But they go and there's no garbage, no cigarette butts, no chewing gum wrappers, no candy wrap. It's just clean. And you realize that is the norm, because those societies have put a stamp, not just because laws have been enacted and they're being enforced, but because the citizens in those societies are saying, well, we're not going to accept this kind of behavior. And sometimes the things that we're told here, or their soft skills, those are things that were once in our own country by our ancestors important. The pleases and the thank yous, the yes moms and the no moms, those sorts of things. So you go to these big cities and these small towns and these big countries, and you realize that those are the behaviors. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't encounter rude, malicious people, vindictive and otherwise. You would probably see them in position of authority, whether we elected them or whether they have climbed the corporate ladder. They exist. But the fact is that how many of us have traveled to places and have been just completely, pleasantly and wonderfully surprised to feel a great sense of safety, to experience a level of welcome and hospitality, and to perhaps go in and find out, wait a minute, yeah, there are tall buildings and lots of people, but wow, nice wide open public spaces, perhaps even near the waterfronts, whether those are lakes or oceans or otherwise. And when you move about, you're seeing all of these things, and you're thinking to yourself, hey, wow, why can't we have that here? Only to find out that there are some people, and I say this, and if you're offended, then call and share with me, so that, one, if it was a misstatement or somehow said improperly, I can respectfully apologize. But two, more than likely, I can challenge you on it, and we can get into it so that it's a healthy, respectful, civilized discussion. But take, for instance, we've got people here, some of whom who've only been here for a short time, some of whom almost like me, can probably go back a lot of generations, who are only going to grab, what they can grab for as fast, as they can, because their mindset, perhaps what they've been told, conditioned, trained, or taught, whether in their educational settings, or whether in their homes or in their organizations or in their sort of, little personal environs. Hey, get it now, because boy, it might be here tomorrow. And is that the best way? But nonetheless, they come, they develop, they do their stuff. They being, as I said, whether they're from afar and only recent, whether they've been here forever. And really no care or concern for anything going forward. And yet, quietly, some of us will point fingers and say, oh boy, that person, whatever. And then we say all sorts of disparaging comments. But lo and behold, there's a photo with us next to them. Perhaps we are in a position of some authority to do something about them, but we're writing a reference to give them more power. Perhaps if they not have secured tenure in terms of residency or status, we make sure they get it. Or if they already have that because they go back generations or they've had it for a while, we appoint them to something, we elevate them to some position. Now, why I say that is that a friend was sharing with me that he's become particularly enamored with a certain setting and discovered that there's a sort of a history where at some point in time in this place there was a particular individual who was behaving, rather badly, and had the power and authority and could wield it, almost with impunity. So at some point, some have said, we're not going to tolerate this. This isn't a good reflection of what we think our sort of history and heritage is. It certainly isn't the legacy that we would want. And if it continues, then what would we end up with? And for a while, there were those who were agitating and had activated themselves and organized and then, brought some redress to the situation. Now, that may sort of reflect on some movies you watched in the past, some books you've read, or some little tales that you've been told. But the question is, if those things can happen and should happen, and if their behavior is similar to what I described transpiring here, and we're doing little or nothing, then really, why are we pointing fingers and blaming others? Well, 949-837, 1-800-534-8255. If you feel so inclined and courageous, if you feel, boy, you're off base, hey, that's fine. An opinion is just that. And it can only be sharpened and improved if people add, to it to make it better. So, invite you to do the same. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. All right. As we're sort of looking at a couple of things, and boy, I miss the days when there were no cameras aimed at you so you could look at what you had to look at in order to figure out how to phrase it. But sometimes you got to pay attention to what's what, because sometimes people don't hear what say, they see. And, non-verbal communication, what they say, body language conveys more sometimes than actually what is, said. And sometimes what is said isn't entirely what is heard, interpreted either. So we'll see how it goes. All right, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. We can pause, take a short break. When we come back, who knows what we have for you. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Would you like free roses this Valentine's Day? Buy a gift that can be cherished forever from Island Jewelers. And the roses are on us today. That's right. We'll buy the roses. Spend $350 US at any Island Jewelers and receive half dozen red roses from Celebrations for free. Island Jewelers is located in the Island Plaza under Margaritaville, Camana Bay, the airport, Kimpton Seafire, and Ritz-Carlton. Show her you love her today, forever, and always with Island Jewelers.
Dominion Life Global Ministries invites you to their first anniversary prophetic convention. Theme, I Must Recover. February 13th through the 16th at the Georgetown Town Hall, featuring Apostle Joseph Jogona, Thursday and Friday, 7 until 9:30, and Sunday, 1 until 3:30, with an elegant Valentine's soiree on Saturday the 15th. If you need more information on the convention or to purchase tickets to the soiree, call 326-0744. The Dominion Life Global Ministries, 21st Anniversary Convention, February 13th through the 16th at the Georgetown Town Hall.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Call and share your thoughts with us. Give us your perspective. Just quickly, as another reminder, 1 o'clock after headline news, the Georgetown Optimist Club, as they celebrate Optimist International Day, have a chance to chat with them briefly. 1:30, His Excellency the Governor will join us in the studio, and I keep saying this, that maybe it's this way in every other jurisdiction. Just maybe. But I know it's this way here, and we should make the most of it. So from the office of the governor being represented through his staff, to His Excellency in person, to our Premier, to all of the other elected members of Cabinet, as well as the MLAs and the advisors, we get a chance to speak with them directly in the media, as well as listen to their debates and contributions in the Legislative Assembly, as well as interact with them personally. So it's a good thing. Let's go to our phones though. Welcome, good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling. How are you doing today?
Very well, sir. Good afternoon to you.
So you've recovered from your day off yesterday, presumably.
I was thinking, if you have a day off, should you not have a day off to recover from that day off?
I believe that's correct. Yeah, as far as I know.
I should put that into. Well, listen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
No, pleasure. I just wanted to call in because I'm not sure to what extent you had an opportunity the other day to discuss the very topical issue of earthquake preparedness, because of course it's been the most topical issue perhaps for the last, ever since it occurred really. And in fact, yesterday we got an opportunity to just briefly touch on it due to the fact that in the Legislative Assembly, both the Honourable Leader for the Opposition as well as the Honourable Premier spoke to the issue of having a national earthquake preparedness plan in light of the fact that we're so prepared for things like hurricanes, but not really for earthquakes. But obviously the occurrence of those seems to be something which could well be, unfortunately, on the agenda for the future. And so I just wanted to call in, not leave you talking by yourself.
Thank you, thank you.
And say that I've done a bit of research on the topic, and it's very interesting, in particular for anyone who's interested, in preparing themselves for such an event. If you go to ready.gov, which is a U.S. website provided by by FEMA, they also have, and I'm sure in due course you will have all of this information available, made locally through our local hazard management and so on. But just to say that some of the most important things, because, and I'm saying this, by way of placing it in context, I'm saying this because a number of people have mentioned to me what they did when they started to feel it, like, for example, that they ran out of their office or place of business or at home or wherever it was. And actually, it is recommended that at the advent or during the advent of the earthquake itself, you do not, in fact, leave a building unless you think that it's going to cave in. Instead, it's suggested that you drop to the floor or the nearest possible, lowest possible location, that you seek cover, such as on a table, and then you hold on to that cover, especially if it's anchored to the ground. So that's something important to remember, not to run outside, because you never know what hazards exist outside. Similarly, if you are driving, that instead of continuing to drive, that you stop, pull up the handbrake, and stay in the vehicle. And these are things which I myself was not fully aware of. And in terms of preparation, some of the important points, obviously we have so little warning time, and I believe the Honourable Premier was saying that even after the main earthquake itself, there's well, in this instance, there was a 26-minute period between when the earthquake occurred and when we were likely to be hit by a tsunami had one arisen. So basically, they suggest that that you have an earthquake preparedness kit, including emergency communications plan for reaching family members, a first aid kit, a fire extinguisher, because there's always a risk of fire given the circumstances, a whistle, a flashlight. Obviously, these things may occur at night. That you check the batteries regularly and so on, and make sure the phones are charged. Also, you secure items insofar as possible, generally speaking, put things that are on shelves that are heavier on lower shelves rather than higher shelves to avoid, damage occurring to individuals from, heavier objects falling from higher locations and these types of things. So just want to sort of take the opportunity to re-emphasize how important it is for us all to educate ourselves on the facts relating to earthquakes.
Right. But if I may ask, certainly the emphasis on earthquakes and just generally speaking, it's great that we have when all was a National Hurricane Committee down with HMCI and the like, and they're great, I think, education and sort of preparation for hurricanes. But would it not sort of a national disaster management plan under the auspices of HMCI, if that's the best entity, and maybe subcommittees and sub-policies to focus on specific threats. Earthquakes being emphasized, maybe oil spills, maybe even a terrorist attack of some sort, maybe a cruise ship going awry and destroying corals and reefs and docks and whatever it is, right? Having some sort of national disaster plan, would that not be more sort of all-encompassing and more effective than pockets of plans seemingly disconnected?
You're right, of course, and I hope I didn't give the impression. I certainly didn't mean to give the impression that I was suggesting that that the honourable premier or the honourable leader of the opposition had said that we needed to have just those two plans.
No, sir. You didn't at all. No.
But just for clarity,
yeah.
My impression is that they were saying that whilst earthquake also needs to be put high on the priority list,
right?
That we need that exactly what you're talking about. Now, I hope and I would assume that those persons who are responsible for these kinds of things that know substantially more than I as a layman would know about these issues, would have the full list of issues that we need to be prepared for, and the probability of them occurring given our particular geographical location and circumstances. But just by way of, it's a very interesting topic, of course, and some of these things we probably don't even think about on a day-to-day basis because Cayman is, obviously we're an island, we're a small place, we're somewhat isolated, but then we're still interconnected with the world. So just by reference to, again, the U.S. list of disasters and emergencies, in no particular order, they talk about if there's a shooter. So in other words, someone in a building who starts to shoot for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about attacks in public places or any type of public disorder.
Mm-hmm.
They have avalanche, which of course is not so much of an issue for us directly. But then you have things like bioterrorism, chemical emergencies, cybersecurity, earthquakes, explosions, extreme heat, flood, home fires, chemical emergencies, hurricanes, nuclear explosions, pandemics, which of course we're dealing with the coronavirus issue right now, power outages, severe weather of varying types, which include hurricanes, of course, and it goes on and on. So these are all issues which, of course, definitely we would need a plan for and we need a public education campaign for. And I think that they've called for that. I just hope it happens very soon because I personally, even though I try my best to keep abreast of all these things, I didn't know exactly what to do. As a matter of fact, I was driving when it occurred, in this most recent incident, and I didn't feel it. So I only heard you shouting to Susan about going to break, and so that was the only way that I knew that something was going on.
Which was interesting too, because I'm glad you mentioned. Before it was obvious that there was something happening, I for whatever reason, I could feel and sense it, right? Then as it became increasingly evident, and I said, hopefully not in an unfortunate way, but for those of you who are feeling that, yes, that's an earthquake, right? Now, given what was starting to transpire, I think safety of the person and those around you should be of primary concern, right? And when you see those sorts of things, you kind of, as you shared, your proper training and the like. Now, not to make light of it, but we've all heard the stand-up comedians and others say, well, the reason why they want you to go under the desk and why they want you to stand in the doorway is because the rescuers don't have to go that far to find you, all right? Not necessarily because the structure is that safe. But nonetheless, knowing what to do, like how many of us probably are, well, again, we can't take our eyes off the ball and assume, because the population is ever increasing and there are some who may forget. But we certainly have a wonderful opportunity to continue the education, and it seems to have been effective over the years relative to hurricane preparedness.
Right.
A question that I was, as you were sharing, I was thinking of as well. Would we, as a jurisdiction, want to get to a point? Do we need to be mindful that we don't, if we're not careful, put ourselves in a position where some sort of government entity is by law given significant powers during some level of national emergency that could not only lead to curfews but imprisonment, not just taking people and quarantining them because of some potential disease or the like, and then this whole notion of a police state, perhaps for our friends who are American and intimately familiar with their constitution, and the seemingly, allegedly attempt to get rid of their Second Amendment and the like. I mean, are there things that we need to look at so that we're not positioned with a very heavy-handed authority who can run roughshod over the populace?
Well, I hear you, Dwayne. And to be quite honest, I don't think that's so much. Unless somebody surprises us and comes out with suggestions of such, I don't think that we need to be so concerned about that, because as it stands, and as you probably know, because I know you like to play devil's advocate sometimes.
No, man, I just like to ask questions.
But it's a very legitimate question, of course, and of course it's of greater concern to some than others. But based on, for example, our experience during Hurricane Ivan, and during other events, we know, and since that time things have developed somewhat, that there are reserved powers to certain high-ranking government officials or people who are in charge of dealing with certain issues. When these types of things occur, that effectively they then are able to call the shots outside of the remit, for example, for want of a better term, of the standard operating procedures, so that effectively and ultimately the governor, of course, under our constitution, is able to make certain judgment calls, and then the premier as well, and so on and so forth. I wouldn't want to, for at risk of error, I will avoid commenting on too much detail. But
exactly.
But certainly I know that already exists, and so I would assume that there's been more specific development of the laws relating to how the hazard management operation goes. But what I would say, though, which is an aside but connected, is that, and I'm not specifically complaining myself, but because I suppose I wasn't as concerned, having an idea of the fact that we have over 220 something tremors a year, even though we don't feel the vast majority of them, and knowing where we are in relation to the continental shelf vis-a-vis the South American continental shelf. And so on and so forth. I wasn't as concerned maybe as some others who were very shocked by it may have been. And that said, one of the criticisms that I've heard levied is that, Radio Cayman was, of course, as per usual, there giving the reports as quickly as they could come in, and they could, or you guys could ascertain legitimacy of the reports. But then, even though we had representatives of hazard management saying that they had approximately, I think, 16 who were monitoring the situation, trying to get information out legitimately and officially as quickly as possible, it took some time between the advent of the event and the actual on them coming online, and that is something that a lot of people express concern about. So I don't know if there's a way to make that even faster, given the short periods of time they're dealing with,
And that's the thing too. On one hand, you don't want to over alarm people and create panic, but then you also want, especially with earthquakes, you want to make sure people have it. And again, maybe there are those of us who are, cool, calm, and collected, on the anything. There are some of us, if the wind blows a little bit, we kind of get, a little bit more anxious. So again, education and training, awareness, and perhaps a chance to even plan and prepare may make us feel a little more confident and comfortable if ever we're faced with that sort of situation.
Sure, I definitely. And just to finish off,
yes,
you probably have to go, but I mean, a perfect example of what you're saying, and indeed what I'm trying to express is the sinkholes that we're still discovering. We have an idea as to why they occur, but frankly, at that particular time, or in the immediate aftermath of the main earthquake, not the subsequent tremors, there was no way for people to know all of the places and things that were affected.
Right.
And so having that official reporting agency giving its stamp of approval on that information going out and people being aware of these things, especially for sinkholes in the middle of a major thoroughfare, for example, is crucial,
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, you know what, to close it out, I appreciate you sharing it, and this is why I hope that I'm not improper in saying that to you and others like you, the public invitation to sit and to share that dialogue may be useful, but just to complement what you shared, whether it's sinkhole or whether it's mental health, these are things that we need to look at as the consequences, sort of flow from such actions. Hey, thank you very much, my friend.
Pleasure. Good talking to you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Well, listen, this is what I just said. We got good people. Let's just listen to them and engage them and embrace them and hopefully be able to nurture them and develop the talent. Well, we can do just that after our news. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access. Information.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
This week, the governor, deputy governor, and staff from their teams joined the growing number of people in Cayman now certified in recognizing the signs of and preventing child sex abuse. Darkness to Light, Stewards of Children training uses a mix of survivor stories, expert advice, and practical guidance to teach participants about making choices, taking risks, and supporting each other to prevent child sexual abuse. Darkness to Light training sessions are free and are available to everyone. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, a Chinese doctor who tried to issue the first warnings about the deadly coronavirus outbreak has died of the infection. Li Wenliang was working as an ophthalmologist at Wuhan Central Hospital when he sent out a warning to fellow medics on December 30th. Police then visited him to tell him to stop as authorities tried to keep the news under wraps. The virus has now killed more than 560 people and infected 28,000 in China. And a 25-year-old man has been arrested for allegedly raping a 5-year-old girl on the premises of the U.S. Embassy in the Indian capital of Delhi. The man was arrested on Sunday after the child's parents registered a police complaint. The girl, who was assaulted on Saturday morning, is in stable condition. Doctors have confirmed she was raped. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And again, we're very grateful always to all of our guests who come and share their time with us. Hey, lunchtime is a good time to, if you have the good fortune, remember those of us who used to work on the construction sites, probably can't do that anymore. You take a little break, you put your hat over your head, and you sit down after you eat, and you got a little shut-eye to get sort of rested. So we know that lunch is important, not just for me that like to eat, but for all of us that need the sustenance and the energy. So those who come in the studio and give up that lunch hour, well, we appreciate it. Now, equally, to be able to talk about the good things that happen in our society, to celebrate, to share, to invite us to participate. Well, here's an opportunity with the Georgetown Optimist Club as we talk about Optimist International Day. President Deandra Bachelor, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much for having us today.
All right, and for those of you who've seen him in his educational endeavors, who have the good fortune to tap into his IT acumen, well, Mr. Mark Ray, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Happy Optimist Day to you, sir.
Listen, man must be an optimist, especially when you're not as tall as some people. Got to be able to see the glass to know whether it has anything in it. but the sentiments of what optimists represent, just even in the word itself. And as we talk about it, and I certainly would love you to share not just with me, but with others. Some will see optimism as a bad thing. My perspective, they misconstrue it, that you're not real, that you're someone got your head in the clouds. But man, isn't it better to be positive and optimistic, even, God forbid, even in the light of the most severe of circumstance, the most daunting of diagnosis? A little optimism can maybe will you. Just my thought, But anyway, what do I know, right?
I agree with you, Dwayne, because at the end of the day, I think, when we think of optimism, one of my questions is, where are we without hope? And when we start to think of optimism, really, it represents hope for something brighter, better. And if we don't work towards that, then at the end of the day, what are we really contributing to life? So I see it as a life journey, really, as a club. We are on a mission that really impacts the lives of these young people and also the lives of our membership, but the broader community as well.
Right. So your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to impart optimism, hope for those. I mean, what is it the scripture talks about? Faith without works is dead.
Exactly.
Life without hope is, fill it in the blank.
Yeah.
So, Madam President, Optimist International Day, right? Or International Optimism Day. Share with us, why celebrate it? What are we celebrating? Talk to us about the GT Optimist Club. How can we be a part of it so that we can have that cheerful smile, that willing spirit? I mean, it's easy you sit next to Mr. Ray, but that's...
Well, thank you for that. First, before I start, I'd like to just say, shout out to the John Gray Joy Club. As a part of Optimist Day, they're having their luncheon for their custodians. And when you see youths giving back, it's really tremendous in our society where our youths tend to be more on social media instead of, in the field, working and giving back to society. So the Joy Club is our baby, pretty much, on the island. It just started in January, and they have done tremendously so far. They volunteer at the Pines with reading to the elderly. Yeah. They do runs, and they volunteer in any way possible.
Yeah. They've also partnered with the Special Needs Foundation. So Joy, in case you may not be aware, we're not talking J-O-Y, although they do bring joy. We're actually saying J-O-I, Junior Optimist International Club. So it's
we're friends with you. That's good.
Yeah. So they are the Junior Optimist International Club at John Gray High School. It comprises of students who are actually junior optimists in a sense. Yeah. So they've been doing fantastic work. And as President DeAndre was telling you, doing a lot of work in the community and really understanding what volunteerism and giving of themselves really is about.
But that spirit of giving back, sometimes if it's not inculcated in us, we go through life, if we never serve, we're missing something. But those who get involved in primary school throughout their formative years, but even in their later lives, there's so much joy, J-O-Y, that you get from it. But there's also not just a contribution. I mean, that is important, but what you get as well from giving.
Absolutely.
So,
VP Mark and myself were just talking about, it's really nice to receive. Who doesn't like to receive something?
Of course, yeah.
But when you give something, there is something that resonates within you. There is this joy that's very hard to explain. Once you give off your time, not just monetary stuff, but just off your personal time to dedicate to bettering your community. And anyone that actually does that, we feel like it's a need to, we don't highlight it that much, but it's something that should really be highlighted because it takes a lot.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we are really thankful for in terms of the structure of the Optimist International organization is the opportunity for people to participate, even if they don't have time to commit to come full-time to be an optimist. They can be a friend of optimists, as you are. We rely on people like yourselves and so many others who can give of some of their time, whether it is through these types of opportunities for us to talk more about what we're doing, whether it is volunteering to be a judge at our oratorical contest, whether it is volunteering to coach at our TriStar Sports initiative. So we have a whole range of things that we're doing, and we're really excited about the opportunities to partner, not just with individuals, but with other volunteer organizations as well.
Right.
So we've had discussions with YMCA, we've worked with, like I said, Special Needs Foundation. So we have a range of partnerships that we're trying to engender in the club, because at the end of the day, we have a number of entities who are really trying to do pretty much the same thing. And if we can build on those synergies and the strengths of the individual groups and pull it together, just imagine how powerful that can be.
That's the thing. We hear often, many hands make light work. Sometimes we don't realize how crucial that is. Leveraging the resources, the skill sets of each individual of every organization, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Absolutely.
This particular grouping, because of their time, their talent, their treasure, their resources, their scheduling, can come and complement this thing to deliver this thing. It's unfortunate, even in a small society, that we sort of miss that at times. But, Madam President, we got you at the helm, so it's good.
Yeah, she's ready and raring to go. She's been at the helm since October last year, and she'll be there right until the end of the term.
Yes, October this
October
year.
40, I'm told, right? You have an extended term.
Yes, I have an extended term, and I'm looking forward to it. I've been working with some wonderful people, so I can't complain. VP Mark is sitting right here, and there's others.
Past VP.
Sorry, my apologies.
VP
Patrice, I apologize sincerely. Past VP Mark. But even though they're not here today, they're here in spirit. And behind the scenes, they work very hard. For Optimist Day, today, Optimist Day, we actually asked them to just wear their pins, their shirt, anything that embodies what optimists means to them. Yeah. And so far, we have been getting great responses. So I'm really, ecstatic about that.
But even that, just in a name. I mean, I believe the scripture about life and death is in the tongue. Words are powerful. They convey so much. And yes, our body language conveys even more. But if you say you're a member of the Optimist Club, how can you walk around and not appear optimistic?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
And I think that allows, whether you want to say ministry, allows an opportunity for conversation, for dialogue, to maybe just impart to someone who genuinely is having a bad day, a bad week, a bad decade, whatever that thing is, that they may have a sense of hope.
Yeah,
but an opportunity to serve as well.
Yeah. And that's one of the beauties of having something like a Joy Club, where we can start to engender that type of thought, that type of mindset in young people from very early. So, they're following all the same precepts and underpinnings that our club has as a senior club. And these young people, they're learning what, like I said, volunteering is about, what it means to give of yourself, what it means to give in terms of time, in terms of whatever it may be, to help others. So, as you said, the power of the word, whether it's spoken, written, and those are things that we are very strong in believing. And as you know, we have our oratorical contest every year. And when, if anyone is fortunate to really attend and hear these young people speak, you know how powerful and dynamic they can be. And we always try to have topics that talk about optimism and what it means either to you, to the world, what it means to volunteer, something that will really try to bring out the agenda of the Optimist Club and the best in youth.
But equally too, to formalize, because as I listen to not just what you're sharing now and what you shared in the past, but look at what has been transpiring in our society. Let's say the last 15, 20 years.
Sure.
We recognize as a people we're not formal necessarily with certain things. We don't formalize our events. We don't record them historically. We don't position some of these things so that it's not only as inviting and encompassing, but it gets the populace. Even me, I'm a fairly casual individual. Pomp and circumstance has little or no significance to me personally, but it's important for posterity, but also for respect for conventions and protocols and the like. But then to get our students engaged with the changing sort of cultural landscapes that we are faced with globally, not just here, to embrace them so that they can see it. If you'll indulge me, you take a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old, anything under 10, the most joyful, innocent, honest is in that era.
Sure.
They don't see anything other than what is there.
Yeah.
Right? But then at some point we, steer them in a bad direction. So what you're doing gives them the optimism, gives them the opportunity to develop.
And to express who they are. Actually, and that's well needed, because that was something that myself actually endured when I was a child. So it actually formulated who I am as a person today in giving back to society. From a very tender age, my mom always prompted me to, give back to community, join organizations. And I can't begin to tell you the feeling that it actually gives me to be a part of these organizations, to be out there in the field. Just giving back. Beach cleanup day, just talking to the youths, just reading to someone. It's a feeling that really cannot be explained unless you actually join in and do it yourself.
Yeah.
You don't know it, man. Well, if we, forgive me, maybe take the short little break schedule, and when we come back, you could share more with us about Optimist International Day in particular, and the Georgetown Optimist Club specifically. Remind us of the oratorical competition coming up, how we could become members, how our students across the entire country could become involved. What are some of the benefits? Share with us anything that improves us as a people.
Absolutely.
I think is important. Doesn't mean that we all agree with everything, but if we have a shared consensus as to what makes us better, stronger, and healthier, we work towards that.
Yeah,
I don't know, boy.
Absolutely.
Just possible. All right, going to pause and take a break, but when we come back, more talk today.
CUC advises participants in the Green Iguana Culling Program to exercise extreme caution around the CUC's poles and power lines, especially when extracting iguanas from trees or branches that are in close proximity to poles and power lines. Participants should keep all objects such as poles, sticks, or hooks away from any CUC equipment to avoid any electrical contact. For further information, please contact our customer service team at 949-5200 or via email at service@cuc.ky.
Would you like free roses this Valentine's Day? Buy a gift that can be cherished forever from Island Jewelers. And the roses are on us today. That's right. We'll buy the roses. Spend $350 US at any Island Jewelers and receive half dozen red roses from Celebrations for free. Island Jewelers is located in the Island Plaza under Margaritaville, Camana Bay, the airport, Kimpton Seafire, and Ritz-Carlton. Show her you love her today, forever, and always with Island Jewelers.
ValueMed Pharmacy is your community care partner for health and wellness needs. We offer convenient prescription processing at the counter and online at value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com, with pickup available at the Walkers Road or Boddentown location. We also accept transfer prescriptions from other pharmacies. More than just a pharmacy, shop ValueMed for personal care and beauty products from trusted brands, perfume and gift sets, Hallmark and greeting cards, baby clothes, footwear, handbags, swimwear, home decor, toys, school supplies, and stationery. And home convalescence aids like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, and hospital beds. With 2 locations to serve you, Walkers Road in Georgetown and in Evron Plaza, Boddentown. Visit ValueMed, more than just a pharmacy.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Radio Cayman News, live, in-depth team coverage.
A 7.7 magnitude earthquake has occurred.
Fast.
Radio Cayman's Carsley Fuller was one of the first to call in. I could hear my neighbors across the street saying, "Whoa, that was a big one."
Accurate.
Radio Cayman's Shanda Gallegos covering the story for us,
advising there is only a very low risk of a tsunami following this afternoon's earthquake.
If it's happening now, you're hearing it now.
We have had the all clear from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Centre. However, there will be aftershocks.
We've had a very dramatic afternoon, and I know that for a lot of people this has been very frightening.
It does not appear that anyone has been hurt and that we have been spared the worst what could have been a truly devastating ordeal.
Radio Cayman News, your news as it happens.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for joining us as we celebrate Optimist International Day. And in the studio, President of the Georgetown Optimist Club, DeAndre Batchelor, and immediate past Vice President, Mr. Mark Ray. Some of us would ascribe another title to him, but we'll wait till he's playing the dominoes later on.
I am no good at dominoes.
Yeah, see, I didn't say the title would be good. Well, I tell you, man. But it's that optimism, that laughter, and the like. And now, Optimist International Day. It's being celebrated today, right?
Yes.
Even on the back.
Yeah.
My friends in the back go, man, you started it good. No, it is great that we can look at life with a sense of optimism and hope. And feel that, not all is bad. No matter where you may be at that particular time, there has to be hope.
Yeah, and various clubs are doing various things across the world because, it's international. It's an international celebration of the day. So, for our club primarily, we have people who are working their 9 to 5s or whatever the hours may be. So, what we are hoping to do is definitely have a more active celebration during the time, maybe on the weekend when we can have more time to do these activities. But for sure, across the world, the range of activities that clubs are engaging in is fantastic. It's just a day when, if positivity was something that we could see physically, I'm sure today you'll just see it oozing out of the atmosphere, right?
Just bottle it and package it up. Hey, see, there it is, man. I'm positive.
Yeah.
No, but it can be though. I mean, the body language. What's the word? Aura, chakras, or whatever. Somewhat appreciate that there are some people that just being in their presence, listen to them, their intonation of their voice, the way they speak, the way they act. It's always so positive.
Yeah.
Even when it's it's not the best day for them.
Exactly.
But it's a sense of hope, optimism.
Right, and it's something that we encourage in our club as well, because not everyone's gonna have a great day, a great week, a great moment.
Except Susan. Every day is a great day with Susan. She's a breakfast.
Yeah, but we encourage our members to just go out and just wear a cheerful countenance to each and every person that they meet. We also have what we call a giving plate, in which each week we give that to a member, and we just say, render some act of kindness. And it is so amazing to hear these stories and how it impacts each and every member, so that smile after they come back each week.
I think that's the unfortunate part. Sometimes we go about life, we take on a lot. Many of us wear the world on our shoulders because we feel responsible. We feel that we have so much to give.
Exactly.
But it weighs us down, right? And to be surrounded with other people, to be reminded that there is hope.
There is hope.
You don't need to feel helpless, no matter where angle you're looking at it. But anyway, small steps, man. Small steps.
There you go. There you go.
Big shoes to fill, but small steps. All right. So you were sharing with us prior to the break. If I may just revisit, in case others are just joining us. We're talking about Optimist International Day, the George Optimist Club. President Jan Bachelor, immediate past Vice President, Mr. Mark Ray. You were talking about, was it Tri-Sports? Tri-Start Sports. And I know the rhetorical competition coming up, and you also reference, the safety amongst. But would you mind sharing more with us about it?
Okay, so right now on the agenda we have 2 events that's happening later this month and the first the last part of next month. And these competitions are the essay competition. So the essay competition just comprises of 400 to 500 words of the theme is just imagine a world without boundaries. And this competition, there was actually an extension. So for anyone that is out there, any students that's out there that's under the age of 18 that wish to participate, they may feel free to do so. The competition actually ends today at 5 p.m. for submission.
And they can submit their essays to optimistkman@yahoo.com. So if anyone is interested, and we have the application forms, I believe, are on our website.
Yes.
Yeah. So they can
check it out. But the deadline 5 p.m. today.
Yes.
All right.
Exactly. And then right after that is our infamous oratorical competition.
Infamous.
I think you should put that. Not ominous at all.
Yeah. Sounds very.
That's the judges.
No, for me, pretty much oratorical competition is a very big deal. It was actually the first competition that I got to experience with the Optimist group. And it just reminded me so much of when I was actually growing up, and I used to go to these debating competitions. And, just to see the chill on each person's face and going up against your opponent and just wanting to be the best, So that for me was like, wow. And these kids were just so prepared. They were so relaxed. The speeches were amazing. So I have to just say it was infamous. So that's the word that I'm going to use to describe this event. So the deadline for this event is actually on February 11. That's
next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the event will be held in March 28th.
Yeah.
And I'm just urging everyone, just submit your application again, please. And the deadline is February 11th.
February 11th, that's right.
Now, who's eligible for, let's go with the oratorical competition. Is it just for, who's eligible?
All right, so it's just for youths, and then it's any youths under the age of 18 as of October last year.
October,
October 1st last year.
So once they are still 18.
Once.
As of last year, October.
Yes.
So they could be 19 now, but they were 18 last year.
No, under 18.
Under 18, yeah.
Yes, under 18 of October.
Yeah, so it's under 18 at the 1st of October of the competition year. So the competition year being 2019, 2020.
Yes.
Yeah. So at the start of the competition year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on Island here, Just open to those on
it is open to those on island and also those in the BRAC as well. So we already have submissions from persons in the BRAC.
Yeah, the BRAC is ahead of the game.
Yes, they're really
Miss
ahead
Susan,
of the game.
They always are.
They're ahead of the game.
They always are. Yeah, but that's on in the country. Okay.
Yes.
So you have to be 18. If you turn 18 after that next October or this last year October. Yeah. So I just missed it.
Just missed it.
Yeah, just missed it. I'm so sorry.
And of course, our winner from this competition goes on to compete at the district competition. Not usually, it will be held in Jamaica. And what tends to happen from other clubs in other areas, because there are more clubs, they have a zone competition, but we're exempted from the zone competition because if our winner goes over to participate in our zone, which is all in Jamaica, then when they win, not if.
Not if.
When they win.
Mr. Forbes, remember?
Of course.
Remember?
And you remember him well, David Forbes. So we're exempted from the exempted from the zone, and we go straight to district. And if they win at district, then they're on to the international competition. So really exciting stuff.
Really exciting. And then there is scholarships also available for these kids, and there's monetary.
Yeah. So at the club level, we do monetary prizes. And at district level and international level, scholarship funds set aside for their higher education aspirations.
All right. Well, this is, I think why it's important for us to be aware of all of the great things that unfold within our society. And for us as parents, as teachers, as mentors, as nurturers, to make sure our children be able to, at the very least, be introduced so that they can get the opportunity to participate. So I appreciate it, man. Yeah. As we I want to thank you publicly again for coming and sharing with us as we went over the discussion. Any other thoughts you want to remind us of the bus safety and the like?
Sure, yeah. So there were 2 events that we started last year. We had a TriStar Sports initiative where basically we took young people and introduced them to 3 sports across the district, across the Caribbean district. Most clubs did just 2 sports. We thought TriStar, we should do 3. So last year we did football, netball, and boxing. And we had young people come out and they were introduced to the various sports. Some of them played those sports before. But some of them never boxed before. So they got a chance to do that, and it was really successful. And we're going to run that again this year, sometime in May, possibly. And then the other initiative we did a bus safety, school bus safety initiative, which we think is really important. We really need to make sure that everyone understands not just how students should behave on the bus, the expectations, but how the general public should interact with buses on the road. So we did an initial project where we did some filming, and we're going to partner with some of the bus companies and other entities to really build that out this year to make sure that we can share this information with the entire general populace of Cayman, because it's really important that we respect the road for all users.
Well, we're here to help to promote that. President Deandra, thank you again. Any final thoughts from you all?
Well, again, I just want to say happy Optimist Day to everyone that is out there, to my fellow optimists. And just in closing, I'd just like to recite the final line of our creed. And just to say that we have meetings every first and third Tuesday at 6 to 7 p.m. at the South Sound Community Center. And in closing, I'd like us to promise ourselves to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. Thank you so much for having us here today.
Hey, thank you, man. We embody the spirit of optimism. Thank you all very much, and enjoy the rest of this afternoon. Be very, continue to be very blessed. All right. We're going to pause and take a break. When we come back, His Excellency will join us. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Your favorite family fun day is back. The 53rd Annual Agriculture Show at the Stacey Watler Agricultural Pavilion in Lower Valley. Theme, Agriculture for the Future. Ash Wednesday, February 26th. Family fun for everyone. Acrobatic show, cooking competitions, produce, plants, pony rides, petting zoo, rodeo, and so much more. Gates open at 7 a.m. with ample parking. General admission is only $10. Children ages 2 through 11, $5. And under 2 are free. Or buy your raffle ticket including entrance fee for for a chance to win $20,000 and so much more. For more information, visit them on Facebook or 345agriculture@gmail.com. Put down your iPad and get back to your roots at the 53rd Annual Agricultural Show, February 26th in Lower Valley.
Get ready for the King Sports Center one-day Valentine's sale.
Let's go.
2-for-1 membership and personal training. It's not too late to get that New Year's resolution started. And what better way than with your partner? Whether it's your hubby, your bestie, or your buddy, the Valentine's sale is for you. 2 memberships for only $750 and 2 personal training sessions for the price of 1. King Sports Center one-day sale, February 14th. For more information on their variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky, or you can visit kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Yeah.
So far, more than 175 Cayman parrot owners have registered their birds with the Department of Environment.
That's good, but we know it's not all of them.
You have until February 29th to sign up to register your parrot.
Unregistered Cayman parrots found in captivity after that will be considered illegal.
Remember, registration allows you to legally keep your bird. We don't want to take away anyone's pet.
So do what's right.
Register your Cayman parrot and help us protect our national bird.
For more information, contact the Department of Environment.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And if I may again say publicly what I believe many of us hopefully appreciate and rarely are we taken for granted, the seemingly unfeathered, equal, safe, civilized access that we have to our leadership. Honored to welcome to our studio His Excellency the Governor. And again, this is just another example of the wonderful country where it's so easy for our leadership to be able to come and for our listening public to listen, to engage, to be able to be informed immediately. So a pleasant talk today. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you very much, and it's a real pleasure to be here.
All right, well, thank you so much. And I think it behooves us to make as best as we can the most profound contribution that we can make to leave that indelible impression, so that not just our children and our grandchildren, not just generations from now, but for immediately, for that impact to be as positive as productive. And this is how we do it, right?
Exactly.
All right. I wish and pray that you, the family, and the staff, and all of us have not just recovering, but have been safe. And as we go about the society following last week's, I don't want to call it ordeal, but encounter, that we are cognizant that it could be, it could happen again, but we can be prepared and we can start preparing. Would it be opportune maybe start to discuss that at the outset?
Of course. I very much like to do that. I mean, and I do recognise that this was a very difficult and challenging situation for very many people. We were fortunate that nobody was hurt and there was very little damage. Quite a lot of sinkholes around the islands. I mean, as I've said, I do think sort of hazard management and the system responded very well and responded as well as it could. But there are always lessons to learn from these situations, and we do have lessons to learn. The National Security Council met on Tuesday and had a presentation from hazard management and looked at a number of lessons that we can learn from this. I think a key one is around increasing public awareness. I think hazard management do a lot of work already to get out into schools and talk to businesses and try and raise awareness, but there's more we can do, and I think we do need to step that up so that people, instead instinctively know what the right thing to do is when these situations do occur. So that's very important. We're working on a press release to give more information on that National Security Council meeting, which I hope will issue in the next day. But it was a very sort of challenging situation. But I think we can be very proud that the islands got themselves back on their feet very, very quickly after this, and that was clearly a good thing as well.
And I think it shows again the resilience and the resolve within all of us, that there was an element of fear, if I can say that way, but no great panic.
Yeah.
People naturally concerned about themselves and their loved ones, but we back to work. We're making sure that we're doing some sort of future proofing just in case. At some point, if I can just perhaps relay a few sentiments that we've heard from people talking over morning coffee, maybe just bantering as we're having a run, and like little sentiments, and it just shows that people are being maybe proactive, maybe provocative as well. But issues like, is there a way to survey the country utilizing international resources and agencies and expertise? I heard a fellow say, is there X-ray that you can to look at your ground penetrating radar? And I must confess, not as knowledgeable about these things. Some of the stuff I didn't even know. Can you explain that to me? I didn't know. But this shows. And maybe these are things as we move forward we could be looking at as well. How to make sure our structural sort of works are as best as possible, existing as well as future buildings.
Yeah. No, I think those are all good questions. And I think those are the things that hazard management are looking at the moment. I mean, one of the challenges I see is the need to get information even more quickly to people. So there is already funded by the Foreign Office a new app which we're going to receive, which will allow everybody to download that app and to then be able to receive information in even faster time than we're able to now. But we're also looking at cell broadcasting so that we can actually interrupt and send everyone who has a mobile an alert, and that will sort of wake you up if it's in the middle of the night as well. So there are a number of practical measures which are under consideration, and our priority is to make sure we do absolutely everything to protect the people of these islands and make sure that we're as safe as possible when these issues occur.
I think we've seen and probably generally accept that when it comes to hurricane preparedness, we have exercises, we've been educated, we've been fairly proactive in our preparations and the like. Well, this is just another one of those things that we have to contend with. It may not happen again for another 100 years. God forbid it maybe tomorrow. But once we understand, how to respond as best as we can, given what may transpire, well, we'd be better positioned.
I agree. We simply just don't know, so we have to prepare. And I think these situations are always challenging. And I think for individuals, people react in very different ways. I mean, I did see a lot of people who keep calm and carry on. I've said that a few times, and I saw that in a lot of how people reacted. But not everybody does react that way, and we should understand that some people do find it hard. And I think actually, having spoken to a lot of people now, you went through an awful time with Ivan, and that is traumatic, and sometimes these things remain buried within us, and we think we've dealt with these sort of traumas, and something else like an earthquake can sort of bring some of that out. So I think we have to recognise that for some people that has been happening, and I think the Deputy Governor arranged for counselling for anybody who wanted it at Government Administration Building. There's a lot of people came along to listen to that session, and I think it's part of all our responsibilities for our employees anywhere to be looking after people's well-being and mental health. And if people do need help, we should be there for them and trying to make sure that they receive the help that they need.
I certainly appreciate you emphasizing that, because too many of us sometimes will quickly recognize the slightest of scratch and have it taken care of, nothing more than a band-aid. But what we probably can't at that point in time quantify, we call it, well, it's just something out of sort. We ignore it, and as you shared, Ivan was a long time ago in terms of the calendar, but for some of us it was 5 minutes. So having that, in addition of the infrastructure, the roads and the like, and the sinkholes that Your Excellency referenced just prior, they may or may occur going down the road. Is there anything in particular as a people that we should be vigilant that we could do? Maybe we're going to be clearing land to build our house. Maybe it's a road that we don't traverse very often as we go into our farms and our undeveloped properties. Are there things that we should just sort of precaution be aware of?
I'm sure that hazard management will be looking at things like that in terms of sort of the advice that they put out. But I think that the key thing for me is really public awareness and just trying to make sure that people instinctively know what to do when these things happen. And some of the schools I think were brilliant in how they immediately got their children they were inside and they kept them inside to hide, duck cover, did exactly that, and then outside when the shaking had stopped, but then back in up to higher ground because of the sort of tsunami risk. So that worked very well in some instances. Of course, parents, and I understand it, I'm a parent myself, felt the need to go for their children, and that may not have been the best thing to do in that situation. So I think the real learning coming out of that is public awareness, and I think that's going to be a big focus.
We think we're being helpful and we're only putting everybody in peril, simply because we're instinctively responding to that maternal instinct, as it were, a parental sort of nature.
Yeah, no, we all understand that. It's very strong, and sometimes it will kick in. Yeah,
well, again, where we get there, I guess, continuing to borrow from the expertise and experiences of, say, the personnel through the FCO, we can learn so much more from what we probably have not had, the experiences in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it works, huh?
It does.
We are indeed honoured to have His Excellency join us, and as we're looking at the earthquake and the education and preparedness going forward. At some point, could we also ask about the I don't call it a proposed regiment, because it's perhaps more than that now, huh?
It is.
And its proposed role and its way it's going to interact and how we as a public will be impacted and affected by it.
Yeah.
Especially in response to disasters and the like.
Well, I think it's, for me, I think this is a very important initiative, and I'm working very closely with the Premier, and we're trying to push it forward at speed. So we have about 50 people trained and ready for the next hurricane season. So, this for me is primarily about disaster preparedness, but it also offers another avenue, another opportunity for our youth to be trained and have another sort of vocation in life, and how the regiment develops over time is very much up to Cayman, and this can be, I think we want to get it to 150 certainly, but it can go beyond that, and that's down to Cayman. So we've appointed the officers, we've appointed a commander, we've appointed the three advisors to the commander. We're sending the officers to Bermuda for some training. They'll also go to Sandhurst, the UK's top military training establishment, and they will be trained just as anybody in the British Army is trained. But the regiment itself will be a reservist, so they will have their normal jobs, but they will be required to give up some time for training, and of course if there is a crisis they have to be released, and we'll pass a law to make sure that happens. We'll have a defence board which will appoint to sort of supervise how the regiment works. But I think this is a really important initiative, and what happened with the earthquake just underlines again why having Cayman having its own regiment would be a win for Cayman, but also for the region, because we would also, if other parts of the region are affected by disasters, we would be able to assist in the way that the Bermuda Regiment has been doing quite successfully for a very long time. So this is something the British government is offering to all the overseas territories in terms of the assistance. The Turks and Caicos is also interested in moving forward, and the others will see in slower time. But I discussed this with the Premier months ago. He was very keen. The UK believes this is a really important addition to our disaster preparedness here and in the region. So I think this is a win-win.
So not unlike the HSA's response with Sam and its team of doctors and medical personnel following the mishap in the Bahamas recently.
Yeah.
similarly we could within the region.
Indeed, that's exactly what we could do. I mean, we hope to have the first sort of 50 people ready by the start of the hurricane season, and they're going to be trained in engineering skills. So if we needed suddenly to clear the airport for any reason, they will have the specialist skills to be able to to do that. So they're an extra resource that you can call on to assist the law enforcement agencies that we already have, and it would be a fantastic new asset for the jurisdiction.
Okay, and then Your Excellency, from that perspective, it is a reservist, and it is a civil defense or civil regiment, if I may.
Yeah, I mean, so we're training them as people who would be in the army. They're receiving army training, but the primary purpose is disaster preparedness. But of course, if in a post-hurricane situation, we have a situation where law and order has broken down, then you could also call on the regiment to assist with security concerns. They could assist the RCIPS, so they will have that function. But the primary role is disaster preparedness, and that's why we believe it's important for the islands to have that capacity.
Thank you, sir. And if you would, certainly trust that I'm respectful, but just ask. With respect to the regiment and its role in disaster response, recognizing where it's going to be getting probably some of the best training from probably the best facility globally.
Yeah.
I don't say that lightly, and I'm told that is not an exaggeration at all, but that facility is known to train, certainly. The use of guns and that sort of, how we would term that, equipment.
Yeah. They will have that capacity, a bit like the cadets. I mean, our cadets now train to use rifles, and that's something which they will be trained to use, and the UK has agreed to provide some support in terms of that. So this is an asset for disaster management, and in the whole range of disaster management tasks, then you may need to call upon a sort of an armed component, depending on the situation. So that is absolutely part of this. But I mean, I've seen some sort of comments on some of the sort of media articles about this, and where people say, why on earth are we creating an army? This is not an army. This is a reserve defence regiment to assist the islands in whatever way is required, but the primary function is disaster preparedness, and that's what they will be trained to assist us on.
Yes, sir. And certainly not to belabor it, not to be disrespectful, to you or to the topic at the time. But I guess some would say a chainsaw would be better than whatever gun is. To clear a roadway. But granted, and maybe again, as you shared, the size, the funding, the functioning, the face of this thing will be driven by us, our electorate.
Yeah.
Electorate.
Absolutely driven. This is Cayman's regiment, and it's for Cayman to work out how this develops in the future. Right. The UK's role is really as a catalyst at the beginning to help it get underway and make sure it's properly and effectively trained. But over time, it can develop in the way that Cayman wants it to develop. I think if you think about what we're going to try and do is make sure that they are associated with a regiment in the UK, and the chief of the Royal Engineers is one of the ones which is being proposed. So again, having those engineering skills, so you'll know how to use chainsaws, you'll know how to use heavy vehicles to get them to an airport runway and be able to repair that runway very quickly. So having the engineering skills to be able to repair a runway, which we don't have on the islands at the moment, we have to wait for that assistance to come in. So this will just mean that we have an additional skill and capacity on the island that we don't have at the moment, and I think that's a really good thing.
Well, this again comes back to us as elected leaders and those who are in the electorate to decide what the face is like. Do you want, like Costa Rica, not have a standing army, or do you want to, if I may even just think out loudly, take the certain teams that we have that are wonderful to be in upskill as a complement to this regiment to be able to expand that, so that as citizens in our neighborhoods, we're part of the reservists and we're able to be available. Can you imagine the unfortunate challenges that Australia is facing, not just with personnel, but how do they get time away from their work in order to assist their country and yet still maintain their mortgages, their households. It's not just a one-pronged approach. Huh?
No, it's not. It's not. And the reservist model is an extremely strong one in the UK. We have a lot of reservists. In fact, the minister who came in June was a reservist himself. And I mean, what we find is that the companies, because we obviously want to draw a lot of people from the private sector, the companies who provide reservists really welcome the training and the new skills that these people get, because they then bring that back to the workplace, and the companies themselves benefit from that. So yes, they have to agree to release their employees for the training, and they have to agree to release their employees if there is a crisis. But they get a lot. They get a lot back, and experience in the UK shows that employers really welcome the chance for their staff to be part of this.
Much more experience, discipline, mature, as it were, employee with skill sets.
Absolutely.
There are significant benefits. Now, from the perspective of the regiment, and as you shared, the hurricane season official start the 1st of June. We want the complement to be there. Operationally and moving it forward, what is sort of the timeline? And other than us driving the face with, what are some of the expectations from the UK's perspective as to what this would look like and what it would do? And could you expound some more, please?
I mean, sure. So we're talking about sort of being ready by August, start of the hurricane season. Probably officially, I know it's June, but we need a little bit of time. So we're saying we'll be ready by August to have that first sort of 50 people, and then so the officers who go to Bermuda when they come back with the commander and the 3 advisors, it's their responsibility to recruit the sort of the first 50. So that we have to then go through sort of interview process. We have to undergo do their training, and the UK again is going to sort of help on that combination of Bermuda and Sandhurst. So then we've got that first contingent of 50. So as we move through this year and into next year, the plan is to build that up to a minimum of 150 initially. So we will be aiming to have 150 reservists, and obviously we can't do that immediately. It will take some time. So the plan is to get the first 50 trained and ready, so we can use them if needed. And then over the rest of this year and into next year, we build up to 150, and then. We haven't got beyond that at the moment, but that's the sort of broad plan as it stands now.
And if I may ask, the initial funding and then the impact on our finances, our budget and our taxes, and like going forward. So the funding and then going forward to maintain it. That falls from within our shores?
It does. The funding is coming from the Cayman Islands government, and I pay tribute to the Premier and the team in the civil service, because I think the Premier is strongly supporting this initiative, and funding has been made available. So the initial funding required to set this up, appoint the commander, the 3 advisors, and the officers is there. It's been agreed. UK is providing some technical support. So obviously we'll provide the training at Sandhurst for free. There'll be no sort of charge for that, and we'll be providing, I think, the sort of the uniforms and the sort of a limited range of the sort of weaponry that the regiment will be using and will be using to sort of train with. So the UK is providing quite a lot of sort of technical support, but the bulk of the funding to set it up is the Cayman Islands government.
And then with respect to the regiment and then our proposed Coast Guard as well, what overlap or complementary components would the two sort of employ?
Well, they are separate. The Coast Guard, which again I think is another excellent initiative, and that's coming. And the Coast Guard, under the authority of the Police Commissioner, will have an important role to play, and that will be much more to do with marine security, obviously, rather than, whereas the regiment has a very different function and purpose, and the regiment comes under my authority as governor because it's defence, and then I will sort of delegate the organisation to the Defence Board, which we'll nominate, which will take the sort of policy decisions on how it's run and advise me as governor. So they're two distinct organisations with clearly separate roles, but I think all our law enforcement agencies, we need them to be working together, collaborating, and just making sure that the security and prosperity of everyone on these islands is our top concern.
And then if I may ask finally, in this respect, certainly open to anything His Excellency wants to share with us. With respect to the regiment, the resources, the equipment, and in particular the weaponry that they may come back, they may return with after they have trained at Sandhurst. What other than the skill sets and all the expertise that they acquire, what are the resources and weaponry when they return to our shores? Will they be carrying bulletproof vests and M16s and rocket launchers, F-16? I don't know. What would they be bringing?
No, I mean it's sort of similar to what the cadets do now. I mean so there will be a fairly limited sort of armed element to it, but this is not the main focus of the regiment. The main focus is disaster preparedness, but you need to make sure that if you're training people to be reservists, that they have all the necessary skills. And the UK is going to assist on some of the weaponry that is provided. But I mean, I can't get into the specific details. But I want to reassure people that this will be a limited part of what they do, and nobody should be alarmed about that at all.
Well, no, but again, this is where I think having such a civilized society and such seemingly very easy access to approach our elected members of government, questions can be asked, directly in our parliament for us. You're so gracious to be able to share, and if we're responsible, we'll be able to engage, offer our assistance, and make it better for us. So.
I think there's one point to add on all of that, and I do recognise that this aspect about sort of having an armed force does concern people, and I want to address that, because that's not. I don't think those concerns are really valid. I mean, if you think about the Cayman Islands, where we don't arm our police. I mean, that we know we don't. It's very different to the US, but they have an armed capability, but in order to use that, they need to get authority from the very top to be able to do that. And in the same way that the regiment will have the capability, but they will need authority and agreement from much higher up in the system to do that. So in other words, if we had a breakdown of law and order after a terrible disaster, as governor, I would need to sign that we agree that we've had a prison breakout and we're needing to recapture prisoners. That in that situation, to help the RCIPS, we may use the Defence Regiment, and they may need to be. To have their weapons to be able to do that, but it would be a very specific circumstance that would require agreement each time, rather than people having these weapons all the time. And so this will be very carefully scrutinised and controlled. And as I say, I don't think anyone should be over alarmed about that.
Okay, and just for clarity, at least for my benefit, if you would be so gracious, understanding what you share with respect to the regiment, that sounds somewhat comforting. But with respect to the police, if I heard you share, we don't arm our police, but increasingly we see them in their supermarkets, we see them walk in the parking lots with this garb, their 50 guns on their shoulders and their boisterousness. I mean, for me, that's highly offensive and it's fearful. I'm checking out in the supermarket and here comes four guys with guns. I mean, thankfully they're trained, but why a gun? I mean, they're not going to appear with it.
Well, I share those concerns. I mean, I'm from the UK, and we don't arm our police unless it's in specific circumstances. And I think that is the situation here. Is there's an armed response unit if there is a specific danger and they need to use those weapons. But that really should be all it amounts to. Right. So if you're saying that's not your observation, I will take that away.
If you would, sir, and it's only, I know it's me. I have some good friends who assure me that these things I have no use in time for them personally, and if you forgive me. No, when we return, if you would allow, could we talk more about it? Perhaps with Brexit.
Of course.
I was really thankful. Some friends invited me. We watched the countdown, as it were. There was a bit of celebration. There was a bit of tear from one or two. I watched and I thought, hey, there's history in the making to an extent. Could we talk about that potential impact on Cayman?
Absolutely, I'd be delighted to talk about that.
We've had some excellent governors to date. Sorry if you don't mind me permitting to say, it's wonderful to be able to sit across from you and to see the honesty and integrity and the candor and the candid nature which we share. So thank you for that.
All right, thank you.
For those, after the news break, rejoin us. His Excellency will continue to sit with us for a bit more. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
This Friday, the National Gallery will launch its newest exhibition, Island of Woman, which examines the vital role women played in Cayman society from the 1800s through to the mid-20th century. The members' reception is tomorrow night at the National Gallery, starting at 6 p.m. before the exhibition opens to the public this weekend. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. A notorious murderer who worked for Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar has died of stomach cancer, Colombian officials have said. Jean Jairo Velasquez, who boasted of killing 300 people for Escobar, was 57. Known as Popeye, he was released from prison in 2014 after more than 20 years and launched a YouTube channel attracting more than 1 million followers. And storms battered drought-ravaged New South Wales and Queensland. A resident there, Mark Catchan, was driving near the town of Ningun when he came across a flash flood. Rain and floods have hit the eastern states of New South Wales and Queensland in Australia, and some drought-affected regions have received their heaviest rainfall in 2 years. Although it's welcome, more sustained rainfall over months is needed to break the drought. Heavy rain in areas with no vegetation can lead to washing away of topsoil. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Would you like free roses this Valentine's Day? Buy a gift that can be cherished forever from Island Jewelers. And the roses are on us today. That's right. We'll buy the roses. Spend $350 US at any Island Jewelers and receive half dozen red roses from Celebrations for free. Island Jewelers is located in the Island Plaza under Margaritaville, Camana Bay, the airport, Kimpton Seafire, and Ritz-Carlton. Show her you love her today, forever, and always with Island Jewelers.
If your business is over here, but your customers are over here, adding more yellow to your business will bring you both right here. With everyone searching yellows, print, online, and mobile app, getting your business noticed is easier than ever. Book your consultation today at findyellow.com.
Nominations are open for the Cayman First Classroom of the Month. Cayman First recognizes a classroom each month for efforts in educational development, creativity, or community service. Parents and teachers, this is your opportunity to recognize the dedicated efforts of your students' class. Simply email your nominations to classroom@caymanlife.tv. The winning class will receive a certificate to office supply, individual student prizes, and have their class featured on Cayman Life TV, on Logic Channel 33, and online at caymanlife.tv. Classroom of the Month is brought to you by Cayman First, supported by Office Supply and Radio Cayman. Email your nominations to classroom@caymanlife.tv today.
Dominion Life Global Ministries invites you to their first anniversary prophetic convention. Theme, I Must Recover. February 13th through the 16th at the Georgetown Town Hall, featuring Apostle Joseph Jogona, Thursday and Friday, 7 until 9:30, and Sunday, 1 until 3:30, with an elegant Valentine's soiree on Saturday the 15th. If you need more information on the convention or to purchase tickets to the soiree, call 326-0744. The Dominion Life Global Ministries First Anniversary Convention, February 13th through the 16th at the Georgetown Town Hall.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thanks to Miss Susan. Oh, she's just right there doing everything. And honestly, a very, very special thanks to His Excellency the Governor for joining us. And I'm hope that as a people we recognize our responsibility, individually and collectively, to do everything we can to make this, or to continue to make this a very safe, wonderful place to live and to visit, to invest, to enjoy. And if it's possible this afternoon for you, 30 minutes, maybe sit outside and taste the salt here.
Absolutely, and I think this is one of the safest places in the Caribbean, in the region. There is no doubt about that. But we can't be complacent. It's something we have to continue to work at. But if you look at overall crime is down 15% year on year, and that's a positive. But we have to keep working at it, because I know people's perceptions are that there is a lot of crime. It's all local. We see headlines in the newspapers regularly, but we need to sometimes step back and look at the bigger picture. And if you look at the bigger picture, in this area, Cayman is doing very well.
Indeed, and again, this is us working together to make it that, from not littering the roads to recycling where we can, to leashing our dogs and picking up after them. Those are not simple things. They're significant to the quality of life, as it were. Your Excellency, if I may ask if it's okay, in respect to Brexit, and irrespective of political and economic sort of persuasion, it has occurred. There's going to be a lot of discussion. We know things as we watch the media unfolding. With respect to the potential impact on Cayman, can we talk about that to some extent?
Of course. I'd be very happy to. And let me just sort of say at the outset, I mean, this is a historic change for the UK. This is probably the biggest political, economic, social and constitutional change for 50 years. So it is a huge change in direction.
Indeed. And forgive me, I was trying to be conscious of paper. I love paper. I reuse it, but I like paper because I can scribble. So I did write a few things down, and when you get to a certain age, you kind of hold the phone further away so you can see. I was making some notes. Would it be okay if I tried to read what I typed?
Of course.
With respect to the idea of the citizenship for Caymanians, has there been any sort of assurances given to our government with the future status and the like?
I mean, let me just say before I get to that up until now, the impact on Cayman has been very limited, and of course we're in a transition period in 2020. So we've left the EU, but we're in a transition period for this year. So everything stays the same effectively to the end of this year. We have to see whether that deadline is kept, which is the deadline by which we will seek to have a new trade agreement with the EU. The government is absolutely determined to try and have an agreement on that timescale. In terms of impact on Cayman moving forward, I mean, I think there are sort of 4 areas. Let me pick up citizens first. So for citizens, there will be no change to BOTC, British Overseas Territory citizens, no change when they wish to visit Schengen countries. So Schengen being it's broadly the European Union, but with 1 or 2 sort of changes. And anyone with a BOTC passport can visit those countries for 90 days, visa-free, in any 180-day period. That is not linked to the UK's membership of the European Union, so that is unaffected. Of course, what does change is, for British citizens, continue to use their passports, even though they say European Union on them. At some point, when your passport expires, you'll apply for a new one, and you'll get the blue passport without any mention of the European Union. I know that's what some people are waiting for. I think Nigel Farage will probably want his very quickly.
I think he's ordered it yesterday.
He probably has. But we're asking people to wait. Otherwise, there will be a flood of people. But what will change is, certainly for British citizens who want to work in European Union countries, as will be the situation for Europeans who want to work in the UK, we will have a new immigration system, and there will probably be a system of work permits. So we won't in the future allow EU nationals simply to have freedom of movement and come to the UK to work, to live, to do business. So that will all need to be worked out. But my sense is that the agreement will mean that effectively there will be still the right to travel. I think we will try and make the bureaucracy involved in all of this as little as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for citizens that there isn't really going to be a huge change. I don't think anyone should be concerned about that. Trade, of course, there's very little trade between Cayman and the European Union because most of the trade comes from the US. So there'll be little trade impact for Cayman of the new relationship. There is some funding provided by the EU in one or two environmental areas, but the EU is committed to keep that funding going until the end of the transition period.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I would expect the UK to look favourably on continuing that. I think the National Trust receives some EU funding, one or two environmental. It's not huge amounts of funding. Cayman, as a very well run British overseas territory, a sophisticated jurisdiction, doesn't require funding. It's self-sufficient in funding, and that's something to be very proud of. So funding isn't an issue. It is for some of the other overseas territories, and then finally you've got the questions around the European Union and financial services, and that is I think something that people do have concerns about, and I understand those concerns because up until this point the UK has been around the EU table and has been able to speak up and defend Cayman's financial services industry. Now once we're out of the EU, we won't be around the table, so the UK will have to find new ways of having influence, changing the views of European Union countries and standing up for Cayman and our overseas territories, which is what we do with the rest of the world in ordinary diplomatic lobbying, and we have a big mission in Brussels, and that will have a responsibility to work directly. So I think those are the sort of four areas that people raise with me, but I think the headline really is that I don't see a massive impact on Cayman, and I think you can turn it into an opportunity. I mean, this is, I think, what I've tried to emphasise, that as Britain leaves the European Union and talks about a genuinely global Britain, working with the overseas territories even more is a real opportunity. So I think I applaud the creation of the new Ministry of International Trade, Investment, Maritime and Aviation under Eric Bush, reporting to the Premier, because as the UK leaves the European Union as well, I think that ministry could take on a more of a role to sort of get Cayman's message out internationally and promote the sort of financial services and tourism industries. So I think there's a bit more Cayman can do as well to have those conversations directly, which it's already been doing, but I think there's a scope to step that up.
So with respect to that, I guess we know we have until the end of this year as the UK and the EU sort of gets everything finalised. For us, it's somewhat of a wait and see, and then after that we'll know, well, what happens. With that then, for citizens in Cayman wanting to understand more, if there may be questions or concerns that they may have, how would they best go about relaying them so that they get to the UK and then the responses come back to us?
I mean, if people have questions, my office is very open to responding to any questions anybody has. So I use social media a lot. I enjoy social media. I'm trying to be very open and accessible. So I have a Instagram page, Cayman Gov. I have a Facebook page. I have a Twitter feed. So, and we have interactions on those pages. People will use those pages and ask us questions. So that's one way you can ask us questions, and we will reply to those. Or you can write directly to the Governor's office. There is an email address for the Governor's office. So please do get in touch if you have concerns. You also, of course, have your London office. You've got the new rep, Dwayne Ebanks. So I think he's already hit the ground running and doing a very good job. And I'm sure they are in touch with lots of Caymanians in the UK as well. So yeah, there are plenty of ways to get in touch with us and ask questions.
Indeed. Well, Your Excellency, I do appreciate you sharing the hour with us. The final break, we'll come back. A few phone calls. Would it be okay?
Of course.
Could we, with the greatest respect to our callers online, if you can be as succinct as direct. I don't have to ask you respect because we are that. Just ask our questions for us and have His Excellency. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Would you like free roses this Valentine's Day? Buy a gift that can be cherished forever from Island Jewelers. And the roses are on us today. That's right. We'll buy the roses. Spend $350 US at any Island Jewelers and receive half dozen red roses from Celebrations for free. Island Jewelers is located in the Island Plaza under Margaritaville, Camana Bay, the airport, Kimpton Seafire, and Ritz-Carlton. Show her you love her today, forever, and always with Island Jewelers.
Dominion Life Global Ministries invites you to their first anniversary prophetic convention. Theme, I Must Recover. February 13th through the 16th at the Georgetown Town Hall, featuring Apostle Joseph Jogona, Thursday and Friday, 7 until 9:30, and Sunday, 1 until 3:30, with an elegant Valentine's soiree on Saturday the 15th. If you need more information on the convention or to purchase tickets to the soiree, call 326-0744. The Dominion Life Global Ministries First Anniversary Convention, February 13th through the 16th at the Georgetown Town Hall.
The 2020 Cayman Arts Festival is here. This year's event launches with Latvian artists Christine and Margarita Belenis, critically acclaimed soloists in the vanguard of classical music with mesmerizing stage presence. Thursday, February 13th, 7 p.m. at the Agape Family Worship Center. Tickets are $40 for adults and $15 for students. Tickets are available at www.caymanartsfestival.com. For more information, call 922-5550 or email inquiries at caymanartsfestival.com. Event sponsored by RBC Dominion Securities and RBC Private Banking.
Radio Cayman News live in-depth team coverage.
A 7.7 magnitude earthquake has occurred.
Fast.
Radio Command's Carsley Fuller was one of the first to call in.
I could hear my neighbors across the street saying, "Whoa, that was a big one."
Accurate.
Radio Command's Shanda Gallegos covering the story for us,
advising there is only a very low risk of a tsunami following this afternoon's earthquake.
If it's happening now, you're hearing it now.
We have had the all clear from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. However, there will be aftershocks.
We've had a very dramatic afternoon, and I know that for a lot of people this has been very frightening.
It does not appear that anyone has been hurt and that we have been spared the worst what could have been a truly devastating ordeal.
Radio Cayman News, your news as it happens.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. And we're all very grateful for His Excellency the Governor taking out some time and now to allow us to invite our callers to share. And as we go to the phones, with the greatest respect, as succinctly and direct and deliberate as you can be, so we can get to all who want to share. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
My friend, good afternoon. How are you?
Okay, and good afternoon to His Excellency Governor Martin Roper.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Brexit and the regiment are very important. But there's something now we're facing in the world today that is very serious, and that is the coronavirus. And it has been known they do not have a cure for it. Mr. Martin, Excellency, Mr. Martin Roper. We have a gentleman here in the Cayman Islands known as the herbal doctor, Mr. Kenneth Christian. And he's been speaking to the present government and governments in the past concerning his medication, which has cured people with AIDS and cancer, which they say is incurable. But this coronavirus is spreading fast and people die very soon.
Yes, sir.
A lot sooner than cancer or AIDS. So I don't know if you're able to, but as a citizen of this country, I think it's very unfair for the government not allowing this man to work with them in helping to save people's lives.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Excellency?
I'm not aware of that individual case, but just more generally on the coronavirus, and I do understand why people are concerned. But I think at the moment I'm reassured that our authorities here, and I have every confidence in our health professionals here, that they have this situation under control. We have to also be aware that so far, as it is spreading fast, but the main impact is still China, and we've seen very few sort of deaths of outside China. That's something that we need to keep an eye on. And there was actually a cabinet meeting today, and I can't say much but I think there will be a press release later with a number of additional measures that the jurisdiction has taken just to make sure we really are absolutely prepared for this. I mean, I think you always have to. We don't have to overreact, but we do have to over-prepare.
Mm-hmm. And now, from that perspective, again, having the notion that our government, together with UK and international organizations, WHO in particular, we're trying to be responsive, hopeful as a populace. There are things we can do: the hand washing, maybe avoid unnecessary travel. Little things that we can do, follow the instructions of our healthcare professionals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the authorities have put out extremely useful information and guidance to the community. And as you say, quite rightly, we should all follow that very closely.
Again, Cayman is that very small place for some of us. We're challenged to find it on the map, but yet we are affected by things that happen globally, or we could impact. Potentially some of the things that happen that affect some of the things that happen. So have a role to play. With that, though, as we look at our country and the different things that are happening regionally, globally, but even locally, what else would His Excellency want to share with our listeners so that we see the best way forward for that safe, stable, secure, prosperous society?
I think one of the things I want to stress, going back to our Brexit discussion, is that obviously with the election of Boris Johnson in the UK for 5 years, who knows, maybe 10 years, with a large majority, I think now there is a very good prospect of continuity and stability in the UK-Cayman relationship, and I think that is really important. The current Premier, Alder McLaughlin, has an excellent relationship with the Overseas Territories Minister, and I think the relationship between Cayman and the UK is very strong and very constructive at the moment. So that I think is really important for the jurisdiction moving forward. And yes, this is an amazing place to live, to work, to invest, but we have challenges as well, and the challenges need to be tackled. Clearly, the jurisdiction's population is increasing, 3,000 a year. Some people say we may be at 100,000. Who knows in years to come? So all of that brings challenges, infrastructure, and I think the government is very focused on addressing those challenges.
Indeed, and as your presence here will be certainly evident as a populace, especially as an electorate. We need to be very cognizant of some of the things and help maybe inform the agenda, or at least be informed. The population increase and the impact on their sort of socio-demographic. But equally, the notion of our constitution, I think we've got until the 20th of this month to make comments to the proposals. For some, they may be just semantic changes. For others, it may be more significant. From that perspective, though, I guess, respectfully, that is for elected members to sort of discuss directly. But
indeed,
any sort of advice or guidance or counsel with respect to the constitution and the proposals that we should be looking at?
I mean, I've said publicly, I think it's a good package. Cayman is a mature and responsible jurisdiction, and this package gives even more autonomy to Cayman to handle its own affairs, and that's the UK's policy towards the overseas territories. That's what we want. It doesn't fundamentally alter the balance between the sort of UK and Cayman, because the checks and balances are still there to allow the UK to meet its international obligations. But it's a good package. At the moment, we still have to wait for it to go through the Foreign Affairs Committee in the UK, and then the Ordering Council needs to go to the Privy Council. So we're not quite at the final stage yet. But this is a good package for Cayman, and it's a good package for the UK.
Indeed, and I think it comes down to the recognition, as you shared, the Cayman electorate in particular very much enjoys that wonderful relationship it has had to date with the UK government. As we look at that, we can see not just increased autonomy, but increased opportunity for cooperation. And, a good child never abandons his parent. And as the parent ages, you draw alongside.
Yeah.
A good parent, likewise, as a children get older and adopt children of their own, their grandchildren, draws alongside to add counsel and advice and guidance. We're never in our own catboats or by ourselves, huh?
Absolutely. That's we should be looking for those opportunities.
Indeed. Well, I'm certainly appreciative, and I commend you for. I don't know, social media isn't the right word. Your ability to balance those platforms and to be very timely and accurate with the information you disseminate. I'm going to have to borrow a page from your book, or is that a web page from yours? Because that is the way of the world. Our young people who are studying overseas can now get information from a credible source in a timely way, as we, who are sitting here trying to figure out things.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think social media, is a very powerful medium, and it's got pros and cons, and I think we're seeing, as time goes on, we're seeing a lot more of the cons than the pros. But for me, being able to sort of share the activities of me and my office and get messages out is very important. I didn't know what Instagram was before I came to the Cayman Islands, but everyone said you have to use Instagram, and it's a younger dynamic, but I'm able to reach that younger dynamic, and so the Facebook page I think again reaches perhaps a different audience, but we try to do slightly different things on each of the pages and make them interesting, and I encourage people out there to sign up or follow, to use the correct lingo. Yeah.
This is where you can follow someone without being charged for stalking, I thought Instagram was a sweetener at first until my children told me otherwise. No, but again, it shows how we can leverage it. It's perhaps for another date discussions on not just bioterrorism, but the protection of our infrastructure, the notion that we look at, data protection legislation, but also what we can do to ensure that sort of safety of information. And the utilization of these apps, the one you referenced at the outset, UK allowing us access to that, so that in the times of an emergency or other national important communication, we can get it instantaneously.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important.
All right. Well, sir, always a pleasure. Thank you for allowing us to engage you for this past hour. I trust that this afternoon will be productive. Maybe, the staff would have some cassava cake waiting for you when you return. If not, you should let us know.
Well, I often say to people, I think I'm the person who ate the most heavy cake and cassava cake last year, because everywhere I go I get offered it. I actually really like it, but I think being given 7 or 8 different types at one sitting is perhaps more than would be advisable, but there we are.
Yeah, well, I feel for you, because I believe I had that good fortune, but no, I think my waistline is saying otherwise. I didn't eat the meats because I had so much starch in the cassava cake. So, you know what? This Christmas may be different.
Yeah, and Cayman Brac get the prize, because I had more heavy cake on Cayman Brac than anywhere else.
See, they're great people over there. Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome.
And I trust this afternoon, Allens, there will be another wonderful afternoon for you.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to come on the show, and thank you very much.
All right. To our listeners, thank you so much for engaging us. Thank you for contributing. And again, thanks to His Excellency for sharing with us. Now, tomorrow, Friday already, Miss Susan? It's Friday already. So join Mr. Art Corner for the record. Come back for Talk Today right after the midday news and midday meditation. Until then, be blessed.